Civic education, something so important that so few know the meaning of. We all know what it means to be a citizen of Jamaica, to be a Jamaican. But do we really and truly understand our roles here on the island as citizens? The Office of the Political Ombudsman recently released the handbook, Jamaica, Strong and Free, a civic education handbook aimed at doing something greatly needed right now, reinstilling a sense of duty and pride in being Jamaican. Civics is the study of the rights and obligations of citizens in a society. This is a very cut and dry definition, and in actuality, it is one of the vertebrae that form the backbone of a nation. But political ombudsman Donna Parchment Brown has her own way of phrasing this.
Civic education is like the lubricant of a very good machine or the gas that gets a car going well. It's a thing that allows members of the public to know what their rights and responsibilities are, that helps them develop a sense of civic pride, that is pride in nation and pride in their own role as citizens. So that education equips us with the tools to function effectively in our countries.
Pride is a double-edged sword. It can be our downfall, and it could be something that motivates us to improve. Be better at what we do, better than we were yesterday.
When you're an owner of something, when you believe you're the owner and you believe that it's valuable to you and that you can add value to it and that what you contribute is seen as worthy, that gives you a sense of self-esteem, of pride, of responsibility, and gives you the opportunity to really enjoy the space you're in. And so this is why civic education causes people to perhaps go and serve on a jury or go out and vote or help their neighbor when they're in a crisis because they are part of a whole.
The Ombudsman says there is a need for civic education to promote an enlightened and responsible citizen.
I think lack of civic education around the world has led us to see something that's called the creeping loss of democracy, where I know nothing, not my problem, not my responsibility, it's for the bigger heads. And what that means is that the risk of a country being less than it should be for the citizens arises. If citizens don't cooperate with the government, and the government doesn't consider itself to be accountable and that it needs to be transparent, that's a recipe for disaster.
In the last government election, the voter turnout was the lowest recorded in the island's history. It now begs the question if in the past, civic education held more authority than it does now.
It was more prominent because it was being taught in schools at a certain point. But in the heyday of Jamaicans' engagement in politics in the 50s and in the 60s and so on, that was a time of nation building and nationhood that really excited them. And in some ways that has waned. And so what this might do is reignite, as we say, Jamaica 60, reigniting for greatness. So yes, I think it's really important now for us to have it.
Civics should be one of the cornerstones of the nation. Therefore, it must be rubbing shoulders with another building block of a country, the Constitution. Something Mrs. Parchment Brown fondly remembers from her own childhood.
When I was a young girl, I think going to high school, my father gave me a copy of the Jamaica Constitution, a printed copy. It was really fantastic to know that there was a document around which everything in Jamaica would revolve. You know, it created duties and rights for different people. Now, what we have done in the Civic Education Handbook is to give the Constitution in a nutshell. But I would encourage every Jamaican to go online, read your Constitution, see what the Bill of Rights says, see what the institutions are, that are established so that we can have a better understanding. And if you're in that 15 to 30 age group that we're targeting, that's very easy for you to do. You're researching a lot of material online. Constitution is pretty interesting. It's pretty good reading.
Now, 2022 doesn't just mark the 60th anniversary of Jamaica's independence, it also marks 1/3 of that figure for the office of the political ombudsman.
I think this is a great way to mark a 20th year. And to mark it in Jamaica's 60th anniversary is particularly wonderful. You know, we have come a long way. I think there's a way in which there's a conversation in Jamaica as if nothing has been achieved. Much has been achieved. I remember, you know, hearing from others about their access to certain things and places, which has changed radically by virtue of Jamaica being an independent country. We were challenged in the political space at a certain time in our modern history where there was a lot of political conflict. Some of that resulted in violence. And as a result, well-thinking politicians, civil society, and citizens came together and said, what can we do to prevent this problem? And they came up with a code of conduct, an agreement and declaration on political conduct, which lays out a number of commitments that politicians have made about their behavior. And having laid that out, they then said, you know what? We need to name an entity with responsibility to monitor and manage this code. That person will take complaints, they will investigate complaints, and make recommendations to the party leaders and the people involved for action. And hence came the Political Ombudsman Interim Act. It's an interim act because the act itself says, as we talked about the Constitution before, at Section 3, that the Political Ombudsman's office should be protected by the Constitution. That is still an outstanding matter. So in 2022, when we look at Jamaica, this is aspirational. Jamaica strong and free. We want to be strong and free. And we hope it's also inspirational that those who read it and those who think about it will say, yes, I can do something to make Jamaica a stronger and more free country.
With the target demographic being 15 to 30, it's no surprise that youth were heavily incorporated into the weavings and framework of the book. As the saying goes, children are the future.
So in 2019, for our anniversary, we pulled together a round table of young leaders from all sorts of organizations across Jamaica. And they thought it would be a good idea to create a sort of democracy club. And in March of 2020, just before COVID was announced, we got together and they named the thing and named what the activity should be. And the name they gave was PARI, as in MAPARI, Political Awareness and Respect Initiative, something I would share with my friends and colleagues. And I'm so inspired by them. They have so much talent, so many abilities, and they're so interested in being great Jamaicans. And they were very much involved in the consultative process and in the development of the handbook to make sure that it really caught the eye of the right audience.
Mrs. Parchment Brown explains that the handbooks may seem like a compilation of common sense, but things that should be common knowledge among Jamaicans can be easily forgotten over time.
Some of the things in here may seem self-evident, but I've found that they're not. People, for example, don't remember that we fought for the right to vote, right? There's a timeline in here that shows in 1938, 1944 struggle of sugar workers and wharf workers to lead to universal adult suffrage. People don't know that the election cycle is every 5 years, and that if you want to vote, then you have to get enumerated before the election is called. One of the things I encourage everybody, all the young people, go out and let that be your 18th birthday gift to yourself. Go and get enumerated, get your voter ID, then you feel like a big man, big woman. You have the right to make decisions for your country, and you're capable of doing it, because vote is power. People got hurt, and some even died for it.
But it isn't just everyday citizens that have a duty to civic responsibility. What role do politicians have to play in this affair?
A very important role. That role includes modeling good civic behavior. which means respecting the rights of all Jamaicans, which means knowing your duty and doing your duty. It is about promoting accountability, promoting good governance, promoting the rule of law. It means doing the job you say that you are committed to doing and allowing others to do their jobs. So there's a big role for politicians in modeling a good civic life.
Out of many one people, the political ombudsman extended a call to all citizens, elderly and children alike, to gather strength to build not just a nation, but our nation, our home, our Jamaica.
We're so fortunate to be Jamaicans, whether we live here or we're in the diaspora. How do we preserve, protect, and grow this treasure called Jamaica and Jamaicans? Civic knowledge, civic participation, civic disposition, these are the tools of building a strong country, fit to live in, a place where we can live, work, raise families, and do business. How do we ensure that we understand the sustainable development goals as we work towards no hunger, no poverty, and gender equality, and many other things? So we have a lot of work to do if we want to continue the privilege of being Jamaicans. And this civic education handbook and civic knowledge are useful tools and a guide for that. So a deep dive is like floating in a beautiful Caribbean sea, keeping us going, keeping us going. The more we know about ourselves and what we can do and what others should do, then the better country we can have. Jamaica 60 is an important year. We want to see the growth of civic knowledge. We hope this handbook will help as we mark Political Ombudsman Commission 20th anniversary as a fair and neutral commission of parliament. When you put all these things together, civic education is not a burden, it's not a chore, it's a flowering of knowledge so we can be better citizens in a better country.
There's no handbook on being a good parent. There's no handbook on being a good sister or brother or uncle or aunt or even the best employee. A lot of the time, some of the most important roles in our lives don't have handbooks. But this time around, we have one to teach us how to be a good citizen. You could say that we're lucky to be Jamaican as a result. A Jamaican in a Jamaica that's strong and free.